so this evening we're starting with our forward bend class, leading us into Warrior 3. So we'll be building a sequence towards getting into those shapes. Okay, so when you're ready, we'll come to a seated position with your legs crossed. And just sitting comfortably here. At any point you feel like sitting like this is uncomfortable, a support underneath your bum is very helpful. Sitting with a pillow or a block underneath you really helps you to sit more upright. So remember, that's always an option in seated poses. And then when you're ready, just find an easy cross-legged position and bring your hands onto your knees. Make sure that you're not sitting back onto the back of your sit bones, but that you're sitting a little bit more forwards on your sit bones so that your spine is lengthening upwards, sitting up nice and tall. And when you're ready, close your eyes and just turn your awareness down to your breath. And take a few deep breaths here just to ground here on your mat. Use this time to just check into your body. And if you've been practicing really hard this week and you're feeling a little bit sore or working with any shoulder niggles or knee niggles, please just back off in the class today and do what you can. And if anything feels uncomfortable, just stop and just don't do it, okay? Because it's all about just going slowly and listen to your body. We've got a long weekend ahead, so let's just ease in. Take 2 more long, deep breaths here. And then you can open the eyes or keep them closed if that feels good this evening. And we're going to round to curl back into a seated cat stretch as you curl back off your sit bones and round your spine, feeling that stretch between your shoulder blades. And as you inhale, we come up to sitting tall, lengthening the spine, arching your back, lifting your chest and gently squeezing the shoulder blades together. And as you exhale, we round to curl back, feeling a stretch through the back of the body. And as we inhale, we draw forwards to lift the chest, gentle arch in the spine, and just watch you not dropping your head back, but keeping the neck following the line of the spine. And now continue just to flow with your rhythm of breath as you exhale, curl back. And inhale, sit forwards. Continue for 3 more rounds with your own breath as you just use this time to check in and ease into your body. And ease into your practice this afternoon. Lovely. And after your last round, you can just come back to a comfortable sitting position. Sitting up nice and tall and lengthening through your spine. Gently we uncross the legs and ground the soles of your feet out in front of you with your feet about hip distance apart. We take hold of the back of your right knee and thigh, bringing that knee towards your chest, and we ease into our hamstrings with a little bend and stretch into that knee. Good. We're trying to keep the spine and chest fairly upright. Just starting to feel that stretch into the back of the legs, warming up hamstrings. Good. And then continuing to hold the back of your knees, you slowly roll down onto your back. Good. Into lying down. And then continue to bend and stretch that right knee while you're lying down. Check that your shoulders are resting back onto the mat. There's no tension in your neck. Keep it nice and easy. Nice deep breaths flowing. And when you're ready, we're going to roll that back up to seated. So bending the knee, rocking back up to your seated position. Good. We change legs, taking hold of the back of your left knee and thigh, bringing that knee towards your chest, and then again, little bend and stretch to ease in. Beautiful. Keeping the chest lifted, spine long. Good. Feeling into those hamstrings. And then prepare to roll yourself down. So bending the knee towards your chest as you slowly recline down onto your back. And then lying down, continuing to bend and stretch that left knee. Lovely. Bottom leg can be a little bit bent or straight, whatever's feeling good for you this afternoon. And then we're going to stay lying down and just hug both knees into your chest. Wrap your hands around your shins or your knees. And maybe you want to add a little rock from side to side, just massaging your back into the ground. So if you have a strap and would like to make use of it, you can pop your right foot into the strap. Otherwise, you can just hold the back of the right knee again, or the calf, or if you're feeling quite flexy today, maybe you want to bind your right big toe with your index finger and middle finger around that toe. Wherever that is working for you. It's easier to keep the bottom knee bent, so if you need a little bit of an assist today, do so. Otherwise, left leg straight down along the ground. And take a few breaths here. Sometimes it's nice to add a little point and flex to the ankle, just to help you ease into that stretch if you're feeling a bit stiff. And take 2 more long, deep breaths here, working to straighten your knee and flex the toes back towards you. Gently releasing to change legs, either switching with your strap or switching to hold the back of the left knee, calf, ankle, or toe. Deciding what you did on the first side, bottom leg bent or straight, whether that's feeling good for you. And maybe adding a little point and flex to your ankle to just help you ease into that stretch. Keep your breath flowing. And keep our shoulders relaxed on the mat. Holding here in the stretch for 2 more breaths with a straight leg as much as possible. And toes flexing back towards you. Lovely. And then releasing the left leg down along the mat, you can pop your strap off to one side. We won't need it again. And then coming into our active variation of the stretch. So right leg is coming straight up towards the ceiling. And without holding onto the leg this time, see how much you can straighten the knee and flex your toes. And imagine this being your bottom leg in Warrior 3, as if you're standing your foot on the ceiling above you. Nice and active and strong. Good. Bottom leg is reaching away with the foot flexed. If the leg's not ready to be straight yet, that's all good. Keeping that right knee a little bit bent is perfect. All right, let's inhale, reach the arms up towards the ceiling, and then extending both arms overhead and reaching through your fingertips. Remember how we spoke about those shoulders, allowing your shoulders to lift a little bit towards your ears, and then just relaxing the neck. Feel the shape here of Warrior 3 as we do it here lying on our back. Nice, active, strong legs. And then we're going to scissor the legs, so floating the left leg up, right heel goes down to hover off the mat. And then switch. Good, feeling a little work into those abdominals. One more time, left leg comes up, you can leave it there. Release your right heel onto the mat. And bring your arms down to your sides for a moment. As we focus on flexing the left foot, drawing your left leg towards you, using those quads and hip flexors to bring that leg in. Think of your bottom leg pressing away. Feel all the shapes we'll need later on. And then taking the arms up overhead as we reach through the fingertips, reaching arms over. Feel the extension through your bottom heel, pushing away, and the reach through your fingertips. Strong, active legs. We prepare to scissor, floating the right leg up, left heel goes down to hover, and exhale as we stretch. Good, one more time. And then hug both knees into your chest, and just relax. So you're feeling that flexion, hip flexion of that front leg coming towards you, which we use in our Warrior 3. Good. So we're going to rock ourselves up to all fours. You ready? Roll yourself up to seated. Pop over your knees or toes. Gently make your way onto your hands and knees. Good. So remember the fingers here. You want your pointer finger pointing forwards. Rest of your fingers are spread out from here. Hands underneath your shoulders. Good. And shoulders lightly releasing down away from the ears. Lovely. At any point, if you're working with any shoulder niggles today and being in plank or downward dog feels a bit strenuous, you can just come back to this position or child's pose. So from here, let's extend our right leg straight back behind. Float your leg off the ground. And now think of what's happening into your hips. Square your hips parallel towards the mat. Flex your back foot and your toes are going to turn down to the ground to help you to feel that your hips are facing towards the ground. Focus to feel that active back leg. And then extend your left hand forwards out in front of you. Focus your drishti, your eyes, and find your balance. Good. Feeling the shape of Warrior 3 here, just in a kneeling position. We take a breath in. And exhale to crunch knee and elbow together as we round through the spine. And inhale to reach out. Exhale to crunch knee and elbow. Inhale to reach it out. One last time. Exhale to crunch. Inhale as we reach out. Keep your right leg up. Ground your left hand back to the mat. Squeeze that right leg up one more time. And then take a big step forwards, moving the right hand out of the way to come into a lunge. You may then need to walk your hands a little bit forwards and check that your right knee is stacking over your right ankle. Taking a breath here. Good. And on your exhale, we rock back to a half split as you straighten your right knee and flex your toes up to the ceiling, working into those hamstrings. 2 more like this as we inhale, rock forwards, low lunge. Exhale to rock back, half splits. Lovely. One more time. Inhale to your low lunge. Exhale to rock it back, half split. And think of squaring off your hips here. So scissor the right hip back, left hip forward. So your pelvis is nice and straight, pointing forwards to the front of the mat. Hold and breathe in this stretch. If it feels very tight, again, you can point and flex the ankle, just allowing a little bit of movement in there. And take one more deep breath here as you go on lengthening through the spine, flexing the toes, and working to straighten the right knee. Gently moving back into low lunge. Ground your hands back a little bit closer towards you, so that when you kick the right leg back behind you, come back onto all fours, and release back to hands and knees. Good, lovely. Let's feel that on the other side. Check your fingers are still spreading wide. As we inhale, kick your left leg back and up. Flexing left toes to face towards the ground to help you feel how your hips are squaring towards the mat. Right hand reaches forwards. We focus the eyes to find the balance. Good. Feel the actions of Warrior 3 here in a kneeling position. Taking a breath in. Exhale, we crunch, knee and elbow to round. And inhale to reach through fingertips and back heel. Nice active straight back leg. Exhale to crunch. And inhale to reach away. One last time. Exhale, crunch and knee and elbow together. Inhale as we reach out and extend. Pause there, bringing the right hand back to the mat. Squeeze the left leg up a little bit more. Feel that glute and hamstring contracting to take that leg up and back. Good. Big step forwards into your low lunge, moving the left hand out of the way. And lunging down into those hips. Left knee stacking over left ankle. Taking a breath here. Lovely. And exhaling to rock back into your half split. Let's move with the breath as we inhale, low lunge. And exhale to rock back, half splits. One more time. Inhale to low lunge. Exhale, rocking it back and holding in our half split. As we scissor the hips, left hip back, right hip forwards, hips nice and straight. Add on a little point and flex in that ankle if that is working for you. Lengthening through the spine as we flex the toes, work to straighten the left knee as much as possible without excessive rounding in the spine. So if you feel your back is really rounded, if you bend the left knee a little bit, see if you can actually get a bit of a straighter lengthened spine. Good. We'll chat loads about that a little bit later on. Good. Coming back into low lunge. Ground your hands a bit closer towards you. So that when you kick your left leg straight back behind you, hands are back underneath the shoulders and release back onto hands and knees. Good, well done. So you may need to come a little bit forwards on your mat now. We're moving into plank. So remember, finding an ideal position for plank works quite well coming from all fours. So feel your shoulders stacked over wrists, fingers spread wide. Keep your shoulders and your hips just like this as you step one foot back. Tuck the toe, followed by your other foot, and find your plank. Shoulders stacked over wrists. We're not arching the back, so a slight sense of lengthening tailbone down. Hips aren't dropping too low. So Cindy, you can lift your hips a little bit and then tuck your bum down. Yes, much better. Good, holding in that plank. And then slowly push into downward dog. Exaggerate the push. As you push into your hands, feel the work into your arms to take your hips up and back. Lovely. Remember, we're trying to keep the hands and feet the same distance as plank. So avoid walking your heels towards your hands here. Keep your distance nice and wide. And because this is the first downward dog of the day, you may want to just pedal out your feet, walk out your heels in your downward dog, or do whatever feels good. The most important thing in downward dog is to get your hips up. So keeping a slight bend in your knees helps you to point your sit bones to the ceiling. That's what we're looking for in downward dog. All right. Continue now to walk your feet forwards all the way up to the top of the mat so you're standing between your hands. Good. Coming into our halfway lift. We bring hands to shins to help you to get the spine a little bit more lengthened. Chest forwards, spine long. Good. And exhale to forward fold. So bend the knees a little bit if that helps you to fold more from your hips. Again, we're going to chat about these all later. Let's rise up to standing. Inhale, arms up, high mountain. Really reach up through those arms. Go for it. And then relax your arms down to your sides. And just take a few breaths in your Tadasana mountain pose. Feet can be together or slightly apart. Palms are facing forwards. Chest is lifted. And just check back in with your body. Check back in with your breath. Take it easy if you need to. And then when you're ready, let's flow. Inhale, arms up, high mountain. And a nice slow forward fold. So extra slow, exaggerate the slow lowering. So we're loading our hamstring muscles by the weight of our torso. As you slowly lower to the ground, those muscles are having to work and lengthen at the same time. Bend the knees a little bit if you need to. Relax the head down. Inhale, hands come to shins, halfway lift. Lengthening the spine forwards. Good. Ground your hands and step back into plank. Shoulders are over wrists. Good. Hips not too low. Active thighs, active legs, active arms. Yes, beautiful. And with a slow, strong push, as if you're really trying to push the ground away from you, slowly move the hips back into downward facing dog, using the power of the push into those hands. Good. Getting those shoulders and arms strong. Let's inhale the right leg up, three-legged dog. And again here, square your hips parallel towards the mat. So flex your right toes to point down towards the ground. So your leg won't be able to go very high. Keep pushing into those hands to keep it strong. Exhale, rock forwards, knee to nose. Good. And inhale, kick back, three-legged dog. Strong, straight, active back leg. And again, exhale, rock forwards, knee to nose. Inhale, kick back, three-legged dog, flexing that back foot. One more time. Exhale, rock forwards, knee to nose. Inhale, kick back, three-legged dog. Now step forwards between the hands. Move your right hand out of the way to step forwards. Good. Check your right knee is stacked over your right ankle. Hug your thighs together so you feel really strong and stable towards your center line. Focus eyes for balance, drishti. Inhale, arms up, high lunge. Good. Can you keep your front knee stacked over your ankle? See if you can straighten the back leg a little bit more. Reach up through those arms. Remember that feeling of lift through the sides of the body? Feel that reach. Good. Straighten your front leg. Again, scissor the hips. Right hip back, left hip forwards. And see how slowly you can fold forwards into your pyramid pose. You're on the board of your back foot, so there's a little bit of a tricky balance there. Bringing the hands down to the mat. Good. Let's bend and stretch in our pyramid. So bend the right knee and straighten the right knee just to ease in. Inhale to bend. Exhale to stretch. Lovely. Hamstrings getting warmer now. One more time. And then holding in your pyramid pose, right leg as straight as possible. Have a sense of lift in your chest. So we're not excessively rounding the spine. We're trying to keep a sense of length in the back. Take one more breath here. Good. Let's move back into low lunge. Bend the right knee, ground the hands, get right leg up, three-legged dog, strong, straight, active back leg. And release it back into downward facing dog. Good. On the other side, inhale, left leg up, three-legged dog. Take a moment just to square your hips, flex your foot towards the floor. Good. Rock forwards, knee to nose for one. Inhale, kick back, three-legged dog. Nice. Rocking forwards for two, knee to nose. Inhale, kick back, three-legged dog. One more time like this. Exhale, rock forwards, knee to nose. Inhale, kick back, three-legged dog. Strong, straight, active back leg. Step forwards between the hands. Good. Left knee stacked over left ankle. Hug those thighs together. Inhale, rising up into high lunge. Good. Focusing eyes for balance, lunging deep into that front leg. Back leg as straight as possible. Reach up through those arms. Good. Straightening your front leg. Scissor legs, left hip back, right hip forwards. Slow forward fold into pyramid. Bringing the hands all the way down to the mat. Lovely. Let's bend and stretch here. Inhale to bend the left knee. Exhale, push back, pyramid pose. Two more like this. Inhale to bend. Exhale, press it back. One last time. Inhale to bend. Exhale, push back, pyramid pose. And then holding in your pyramid, think of lengthening the spine, slight lift in the chest. Good, take one more breath here. Beautiful. Bend the left knee, ground through the hands, kick left leg back, three-legged dog, strong, straight, active back leg. And release it back into downward facing dog. Just breathing here in your down dog. Gazing to the top of the mat, option to walk, step, or jump to your hands. Good, coming into halfway lift, inhale hands to shins, or you can keep fingertips to the ground if you're able to lengthen the spine here. And exhale to forward fold, bend the knees a little bit if you need to allow more folding from the hips. And then we'll rise up to standing. Inhale, reach arms up, really reach. And then relaxing arms down to your sides. Take a moment to breathe and ground. Come back to your breath. Let go of any tension in your upper body. If you're working with any niggles today, make sure you're listening to your body and backing off where you need to. Not overdoing anything. 2 more long, deep breaths here. Beautiful. Eyes open. Inhale, arms up, high mountain. Slow forward fold, going all the way down. Nice. Inhale into a halfway lift, press chest forwards. Grounding through the hands to step, or if you're feeling like you take a little jump back into plank, hold your plank for strength. Shoulders over wrists. Thighs nice and active. Good, bum not too low. Find that point. Yes, Cindy, much better. And then watch your head isn't dropping. Keep your gaze slightly forwards to the front of the mat. Perfect. Now with a slow, strong push, slowly move back into downward dog. Yes, nice everyone. Inhaling the right leg up, three-legged dog. Strong, straight, active back leg. Step forwards between the hands or high lunge. When you're ready, inhale, arms up. Good. Reaching up through those arms, lunging deep into the front leg. Straighten your right leg and slowly fold for pyramid, but this time sweeping your arms back into airplane arm position, hovering the chest parallel to the ground. Inhale, we bend the right knee, sweep back up into high lunge, reaching arms up. And again, straighten the front leg, forward fold pyramid with airplane arms sweeping back. Nice control. One more time. Inhale, arms rise up, high lunge. Exhale, pyramid with airplane arms, holding it there. We prepare to move into warrior three. Bring hands to heart center. Bend your right knee, step forwards. Warrior three, just refold, squeezing the back leg up. Bring your hands to the mat for standing splits. So your hands are underneath your shoulders. Good, we're gonna square those hips more parallel towards the floor, so we'll keep with our theme of warrior three. Moving into curtsy squat. Fold the left knee behind the right knee. Curtsy squat, and then squeeze left leg up, standing split. And repeat. Exhale, curtsy squat. And squeeze up to standing splits. One last time, a little curtsy. Big squeeze to standing splits. Holding your standing splits, and with your left foot, take a big step back. Walk your hands to the side of your mat into a wide-legged forward fold. Good, well done. We're changing direction on our mats, so now continue to walk your hands around to fold over your left foot, facing the back of the mat in pyramid pose. Swivel so you're on the ball of your back foot to help you to bring your hips to face forwards and straight. Taking a breath here in your pyramid. Option to forward fold into it if you like, and release head towards the shin. Lovely. We're going to bring it up to standing, so bend the left knee. Hug your right knee to your chest as you come up to standing. So feel your balance here as you focus eyes for balance, lengthening through the spine. Kick your right leg forwards, reach arms up overhead. We're going to take a pistol squat to the ground. So you're trying to squat down, using that left leg and keeping your right leg out in front of you. See if you can squat all the way to the floor, keeping that right leg out. And it's really hard, don't worry about it. And then forward fold over your right leg. Left knee is bent, right leg is straight, forward fold and soften. Inhale to reach arms up. Moving into our supported side plank. As you step your right hand behind you, bring your hand more towards the middle of the mat. Remember, we're going to flip this over into downward dog. Press the hips up so you're in a little supported side plank. You got it. Flip all the way over, back into downward dog, and you'll need to do a little step with your hands and feet to bring you back into downward facing dog. Breathing here in your downward dog. Let's feel that on the left. Left leg rises up, three-legged dog, strong, straight, active leg. Big step forwards between the hands. Knee stacks over ankle. When you're ready, rise it up, high lunge. Good, straightening your front leg, forward fold, pyramid pose with airplane arms, hovering the chest parallel to the mat. Inhale, arms up, high lunge. Exhale, pyramid pose. Arms reaching back, one more time. Inhale to high lunge. Exhale to pyramid. Hold and breathe in your pyramid. Focus eyes for balance. Look where you're going. Hands to heart center. Step forwards, warrior three. Right leg squeezing up at the back. Hands to the mat, forward fold, standing splits. Think of squaring off your hips here so that leg won't go too high. And exhale, we curtsy squat, folding right knee behind the left and squeeze up, standing splits. And exhale to curtsy squat and squeeze up, standing split. One last time. Exhale to squat, squeeze up to standing splits. Hold there, feel that stretch. Big step back with the right foot. Walk through to the side of your mat, wide-legged forward fold. And then continue to walk around to face the back of your mat into a pyramid pose. Turn onto the ball of the back foot, square off your hips. And if you'd like to take it a little bit deeper, fold your head towards your right shin. Allowing a little bit of rounding in the spine. Ready to bring that up to standing. Bend the right knee, hug left knee to chest. Come up to standing facing the back of your mat. Hug knee to chest. And then kicking that left leg forwards, reach arms overhead. So we've still got the shapes of warrior three here, just in a standing upright position. And then pistol squat to the ground. Coming all the way to sitting down into your bum. Left leg is forwards. Right leg is bent, forward fold, hands over the shin. Take a few deep breaths here. Inhale, reaching arms up. Left hand goes behind you this time towards the center of the mat. As you turn onto the left hip, press up into a supported side plank. And then when you're ready, flip back over, step it out back into downward facing dog. And breathe in your down dog. If shoulders are tight, take child's pose, listen to your body. Or 2 more deep breaths here in downward dog. Go on lifting your hips as high as possible to the ceiling, even if that means a slight bend in the knees. Gazing to the front of the mat, walk, step, or jump to your hands. Inhale, hands to shins, halfway lift, press chest forwards. And exhale to forward fold, release the head down. Rising on up to standing, high mountain, reach up. And then relax the arms down to your sides. Take a moment to breathe. And ground here in your mountain pose. Come back to your breath. So feeling nice and warmed up in those hamstrings for our bottom leg. Feeling our back leg is nice and active in our glutes and hamstrings to take that leg behind us. And we're aware now to focus our eyes, our drishti, for balance. So putting all those pieces together with a few arm variations. We'll start in tree pose. So from Tadasana, bring your right leg up into tree. See how high you can get that heel, and see if you can get your foot to stick there after we chatted about flexing the foot, digging your heel into your inner thigh, and your inner thigh into that heel. Bring hands to heart center, focus your eyes, and find your drishti. Kick your right leg forwards out in front of you, and then pendulum your right leg back, keeping the hips parallel, right foot flexed, facing the floor. And then just gently lean your torso forwards and reach your right leg back. So you're just leaning into. Square the hips, flex the foot, keep your chest lifted, collarbones lifted and broad. Beautiful. Hands to the center of the chest. Take a breath here. Squeeze that back leg up. Bend your front knee. Take a big step back into your high lunge. Inhale, reach arms up. Good. Hopefully feeling a little different this week. Now airplane your arms back. Remember in airplane, don't drop your chest. Think of you being in a little baby back bend here. Keep chest lifted. Arms reaching back. Shift your weight forwards into your left foot. Remember the trick of keeping your bottom leg a little bent. As you float your right leg up, keep the left leg a little bent. So you can square the hips, get everything in shape. Lift your chest with airplane arms. Squeeze that back leg up. Maybe straighten the bottom leg a little more. Take one more breath. Lift your chest. Big step back, low lunge. Ground your hands. Well done. Back into downward facing dog. Take a little breath here. We'll do our full version in a sec. Right leg sweeps up, three-legged dog. Step it through to high lunge. When you're ready, inhale, arms up. So now, with arms overhead, we've got more lift. So that's going to feel a little different. When you're ready, lean forwards. Focus eyes for balance. Keep your arms reaching up. Shift your weight into your front foot. Keep that bottom leg a little bent. Step forwards, warrior three. Lift your back leg up at the back. Flex the foot, strong, straight, active leg. Yes, Michaela, nice pose there. Nice D. Reach your arms forwards. Feel what it's like. It's much harder. Bring your left knee into tree pose when you're ready to come out of the pose. Whew. We're going to bring it back from the top with the left foot in tree. Hands in heart center. If you need to shake out your feet or just take a little breath here, please feel free to. Otherwise, when you're ready, let's go. Kick the left leg forwards. With hands in the center of the chest, pendulum your left leg back. Keep hips parallel as you lean forwards. into warrior three. Feel how this version is so much easier with your hands and your chest. Take a breath here, squeeze that back leg up, keep your chest lifted, and then slowly bend the front knee to step back for high lunge. Good. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, airplane your arms and lean your chest forwards, but keep your chest upright. Step forwards into warrior three. Flex the back foot. Lift your chest. Press through the back heel. Yes. Take one more breath here. See how much you can lift your chest. Big step back to a low lunge, grounding your hands. Step back, downward facing dog. Well done. Take a few breaths here in your down dog. The last one's always the hardest. Okay, let's go. Left leg rises up, three-legged dog. Big step forwards into a high lunge. Inhale, reaching arms up. Now you can come in with hands in prayer or aeroplane arms, or keep your arms above your head. Give it a go. Lean forwards. Keep your bottom leg bent, like squat into it. That'll help you to lift your back leg up into warrior three. Reach through those fingertips. Press through the back heel. Nice pose there, Rowan. Yes. Stretch the back leg. Rise back up to high mountain. Inhale, arms up, feet together. Come to standing. Inhale, arms up. Well done. And then relax your arms down to your sides. And take a few breaths here to ground. Well done. Hopefully those shapes are feeling a little bit different this week. Let's wind it down. Chair pose, bending the knees, squat down, chair pose. Remember, shift your weight back in your heels to be able to squat low and send your hips back behind you. Squat all the way to the floor, Tadasana squat. Watch those with knee issues, don't be here too long. We're just briefly transitioning to seated on your bum with soles of feet together here in our butterfly pose. Good. Take a few breaths in butterfly. Allow those legs to relax. Allow your shoulders to soften. Take a few breaths. We're going to move into a gentle pigeon pose. So sit your weight onto your right hip and bum cheek, and then slide your left leg back behind you. And then remember, the wider you keep your right knee, the more comfortable you can come down through your hips. When you're ready, you can forward fold into elbows. Those working with any knee niggles, a cushion underneath your right bum or a yoga block takes the weight off that knee and makes it feel a lot more comfortable. So make sure that you're never feeling any discomfort in your knees in pigeon. Find a nice easy stretch into that right glute. Those muscles have worked hard squeezing your leg up at the back. So just allow them to stretch out and release. Arms wherever they feel comfortable. And slowly we're bringing it back to butterfly. We're coming back up onto your hands, sitting back over onto your right bum cheek, and swinging your left leg around back into your butterfly Baddha Konasana. Sitting tall for a moment. And then moving that onto the other side as you sit your weight off to the left. Send your right leg back behind you. Keep that left knee nice and wide as you just bring your hips around to sit more evenly. And then gently forward fold when you're ready. The wider your left knee comes out to the side, the easier it is to sit more even weight through the right and left side of the pelvis. So you want to be nice and balanced, because remember tomorrow we are doing our mermaid pose, and that's where that balance really comes into play when we have to lift our arms off the floor. Take a few deep breaths here, wherever you're feeling comfortable. And if it's not comfortable, come out of the pose. Gently easing back up onto your hands, sitting off onto your left bum cheek, and then bringing both feet around to face forwards at the top of your mat. Shuffle yourself forwards. We're going to recline down in a moment. Good. Reaching arms ahead, and then rounding through your spine, slowly releasing down onto your back. You can bend your knees and place your feet the width of the mat, nice and wide. Arms in a gentle cactus-like position. And then just rolling the knees from right to left. In your own time, just slowly releasing and unwinding. Do whatever feels good in your body, whatever you need in this moment. If that's an extra pose or an extra twist or a little hug of your knees into chest or happy baby, whatever you need in this moment, go for it. And then when you're ready, we'll move towards our final relaxation. Bringing your arms down to your sides, palms are facing up. Straightening your legs down along the mat and just allowing your feet to drop out to the sides. And scanning through your body so that you're lying totally comfortable here. Make any finer adjustments. And then when you're ready, become still and relax.
Class, I felt so weak, like I couldn't even get into tree pose, whereas last night, I was holding tree pose for like minutes perfectly. And I just wanted to know, do you think it's because I took an anti-inflammatory?
Sometimes, the anti-inflammatory can actually throw you off a little bit. So yes, sometimes it can. You can kind of feel a little bit off. And then secondly, yes, please guys, be careful of your shoulders. As we were chatting about with those chaturangas and things last weekend, how we need to build that strength, because yoga, we're on our arms a lot. And then especially when we're doing back bends in different shapes, we need to build that strength slowly. So just don't push yourselves. And also you're going to go through a big transition at the moment. You're going to feel sore. Things are going to feel different. It may not feel great at times because you're using your body so much more. It's intense on the weekends, especially these two first weekends, because you're learning so many poses. And then taking it away during the week and practicing. So it's kind of like a little bit of a jump start, but I promise you towards the middle of the course, towards the end of the course, you're going to be feeling so much stronger, and those funny little niggles will settle down as long as you don't push yourself too hard and hurt yourself. So, and yes, balance is one of those uncontrollable things. Some days you can balance and some days you can't. And I know you can feel a bit off after anti-inflammatory, so I think that's also normal. So Elaine, just take it easy this weekend. Don't push yourself. Listen to your body, but you all are going to feel a lot over the next weekend, maybe the next week, but I promise it'll all settle as you get strong. Clara?
So it's just a question for one of the first poses where we're on our backs and we take our legs up to stretch the hamstrings. Is it better to do a strap if one shoulder lifts up a bit? Or because I feel like the stretch is more intense if I do hold like that.
Yeah.
But then
Good question, Clara. Yeah. So Clara's when she binds her foot, her shoulder's going to lift off the ground like this. And this is a very common thing we see in that pose, in the lying down version. And then you also do it standing upright. So yes, Clara, not ideal to have your shoulder lifting off the floor. Ideally, you want to keep your shoulder back on the mat. And I always say like in the socket, because especially when you're doing it standing, and you've got the weight of your leg on your arm and you're kind of yanking it out, cannot be so great for the shoulder. So better to use a strap if you have one and kind of anchor that down. You'll probably find if your hamstrings were a little bit warmer later on in the sequence, you could probably bind if you can hold there. But better not to have that shoulder out, or the knee a little bit bent, but we were working towards straight legs. So it's a good observation around that shoulder to not have it lifted off the mat like that. Absolutely. Thanks, Clara. Elaine, back to you.
I'm so sorry to ask another question. I really struggle with pyramid pose, and I actually just remembered something, and I tried it tonight. Like using a block on your hand, is that okay?
Yes, so we're actually going to talk about these forward folding poses now. I want to talk about pyramid pose. Ari was asking about the halfway lift and forward folds with the knees bent or straight. So I'm going to tackle that tonight, Elaine. And yes, blocks are fantastic. Blocks work really nice to bring you up a little bit higher, which helps you to have your legs straight and your spine a little bit more lengthened. So we're going to chat more about that as well. Blocks are awesome. Who had their hand up and then you just disappeared? Oh, Alice, you were first. Hi, Alice.
Hi. 2 questions, and you can let me know if they'll be tackled as well later. When we're on our backs, and sorry if I missed this answer, but when we were stretching our leg lying down supine, is our leg coming out or it's straight?
For this one, for Warrior 3 purposes, it's straight, so kind of in line with the hip. But we do a version where it's out to the side, and then you've got more external rotation. So there are 2 versions there, which we will talk about. I'm hoping to get to them this weekend. But yes, for this one, Alice, it's straight.
Okay.
If I was doing a sequence for like half moon or something with external rotation, then I would want that side one.
Okay. There's the one where we have our leg out and we come down with the leg out into the seated. Yeah.
And I'm so sorry, I can't demonstrate that very well for you guys at the moment. It is on the website and it is broken down for you in loads of detail. And I'm happy to chat to you about it a bit as well. Seeing as I can't lean forwards enough to do it. It's quite tough, Alice.
Yeah.
It's a really tough pose. If you look in the website under pose analysis, you'll see Catherine's got a whole lot of videos of all the poses.
Okay.
And in there, you've also got a pistol squat, and it's broken down for you so nicely. Because it's one of those poses, kind of like chair pose. You have to sit your bum back a lot, but at the same time, also kind of counterbalance that by leaning forwards. And then you're doing a single leg squat, bringing your bum to the floor whilst keeping the other leg out in front of you. So very quad intensive. So a good question. It's a hard pose. And watch the video and then let me know if you have any more questions and we can go through it again as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. Miriam, hi.
Hi, I just wanted to know if it's okay, because when I'm in corpse pose,
Yes.
I feel uncomfortable with my legs straight. So my lower back pops up because I have got a huge behind. So is it okay for me to keep my legs up, like in a triangle, like with my knees together in Shavasana?
Absolutely. So, I mean, you're not the only one. Sometimes, especially after doing a lot of forward folds, when you lie back again, your back actually feels quite uncomfortable. So with the knees bent is fantastic, Miriam, especially with the knees in that kind of knock knee position, because then the legs can rest like that. And one more version, which would also be nice, is a pillow underneath the back of your thighs. One of those yoga cushions. And then that'll also just help your lower back to relax towards the floor a little bit more. But totally fine, of course, because the idea is to be able to relax in that pose. And if you're unable to relax in it because your back feels uncomfortable, then that's not serving the purpose.
Okay.
Try the pillow underneath the legs, though. It's amazing.
Well, the thing is, you don't always have a pillow, so.
I know. That's the thing, you don't always. So then knees bent is perfect.
Okay.
And Belinda.
May I please ask that Clara can go first, because my hubby just got home and I'm scared that the dog will freak out. So can she go and then I'll go after her.
We'll come back to you, Clara.
No, it's just for the squat.
Yeah.
My leg is, I can't keep it straight all the way down. I have to bend it to kind of crunch in a bit.
Yes.
Is that?
That's fine. That's fine. If you could just get to the floor with a single leg squat, awesome. And the strength that will come will be from your hip flexors. So your hip flexors and your quads, and the stronger your front of your thighs are to keep that leg out in front, that will help you to keep that leg straight as you lower. It's not a yoga pose. You guys don't have to stress about it, but it is kind of cool, fun, strengthening transition. And it's quite fun to weave those nasty little bits into your classes to build more strength. Cool. Thanks, Clara. Belinda?
Okay, I'm good. I just quickly wanted to ask, when we're doing all of the forward things, how much weight's supposed to be in our toes? Because at one point today, I'm trying to remember in what pose it was, but I kind of leaned more forward onto my toes with my weight, and it felt like the whole move just got a lot, the whole pose just got a lot easier. So I'm not sure if I was just moving out of, like, making the range of movement a little bigger, or if it's that whole lift and then you're lifting. So I'm just not sure what I felt. So I was just wondering, how much weight should we have in our toes?
So when we come into like a forward fold and bring our hands to the floor, what we're looking for is our hips to be above our feet. What actually happens a lot of the time is people stick their bums back and actually lean more weight back into the heels, which is often easier. And having your weight more forward sometimes is actually harder. So sometimes you get more of a stretch. So it's interesting, you almost had a different kind of experience, which is also totally cool because we're all different. But we'll look at it now because we're going to talk about our halfway lift and forward fold, and then have a look at where the hips, sorry, you just bounced, there you are, and where your hips are in relation to your feet. And we kind of want a straight line, not leaning back. And it's very uncommon to lean too far forwards because you'll just feel like you're going to face plant. Okay, cool. Thanks, Belinda. Annalise, hi.
Sorry, this one is a bit different. Can you explain the leg position of the front leg in the pigeon pose, particularly the foot? Where must the foot be? Must the foot be close to your pubic bone, or must it be straight across the mat?
Yeah. So if we look at our leg in pigeon, I'm just going to do it seated. Okay. We want that leg a little bit, the knee first of all out to the side, which we've chatted quite a lot about. And then that foot, think of it coming, Annalise, almost to the opposite hip. So this is my right leg. My right heel is coming towards my left hip. The more it comes to the pubic bone, it might be a little bit too strong. It will be different, but that foot's kind of going to be on a diagonal line like this for most of us. And think of your heel, and sometimes if you're very low in the pose, your heel will actually rest on the opposite hip.
Yeah, okay.
And that is perfect.
Yeah, so that makes sense, because I was just wondering, like, I always wondered, like, should your leg be straight across the mat? And then I thought, like, no, because my knees never felt comfortable with it like that.
That's instructed, to have your leg, like this. But it depends on the shape of your hip socket. So I don't know how far you guys have gotten into your anatomy, but our ball and socket joints are all very different. So some people, their hip can be like that, and that's totally fine for them. where most of us, we're going to be a little bit more at that angle, and that's enough, because that is just as far as our leg goes within the range of motion of that external rotation there. So this is just crazy. I wish yoga teachers would stop doing that, because most people can't do it. Most of us are going to be in a little bit of this diagonal line in pigeon, knee slightly out to the side and heel towards the opposite hip bone.
Cool.
And I think it's really important, pigeon is always, there's always so many questions around pigeon pose. And I think you guys going out there as teachers is important to actually teach, what are you doing with your legs in pigeon? Because we always get to this course and everyone's like, we've got a lot of questions. We want to know if we're doing it right or where the leg's supposed to be. So as teachers, it's a good one to tackle. Don't just come into pigeon pose and lie there and breathe. It's actually like, explain, look at where your knee is going. If it's here, it's harder. If it's out to the side, it's going to feel more comfortable. Feel how that brings your hips down more evenly. Feel where that bottom foot is. The higher that bottom foot is going to be harder. The lower it is down, the maybe more comfortable you'll be in the pose, and adjust to where your pigeon leg feels best. And it's an important one to teach. It's a big pose, because we don't only lie there in pigeon, then we do mermaid, and then we do full king pigeon pose with those legs. So we use it a lot in yoga and all the styles.
I'm glad I asked that.
Yeah, no, important. Okay. And we'll do it again tomorrow morning, and let me know how it feels after the class too. Cool. All righty, everyone. So let's talk about these forward bends. So I don't have my manual up with me. Section 9 is standing forward bends. It'll be around page 100. See if anyone beats me to finding it and finds the number. We'll be in our wide-legged forward fold to begin with. Anyone found it yet? Nicole, what number are we? 105. Thank you so much. Okay. So 105, you'll find our standing forward bending poses. I want to just talk about these poses because we have a lot of questions around them, and then I'd like to recap what we did last weekend, if we have enough time. Okie dokie. So our first one there is with our legs wide. In Sanskrit, it's called prasarita, padottanasana. We normally just say wide-legged forward fold because that makes more sense and translates better for our students as well. Okay, basically it means wide-legged intense stretch anyway. Okay, so the ankles, I think it was actually Amy that asked about the ankles, so she's not here this evening. The ankles often feel quite a big stretch in this pose, so I often have that question asked about the feet. Your feet are wide out to the side with your feet pointing forwards, parallel position, okay? In some cases, it's quite nice to even turn your toes in slightly. So weirdly enough, when your toes turn in, if we're doing an internal rotation, okay, it makes it easier to forward fold. For some, weirdly enough. It almost creates a little bit of space in the pelvis. So that is why I always like to stand my feet in Tadasana, like big toes together, heels slightly apart. Because when I forward fold, for me, it's complicated. I won't go into the details in the pelvis, but it can actually feel like you're creating a little bit of space in your hips. So try both, feet parallel, and then maybe feet turned in a little bit, as long as it's not too strong on your ankles being stretched. Okay, and then we've got lots of variations of this pose. And in your assessment, we're going to do 3 different variations. So I'm going to show you those variations and then you can give it a go. Okie dokie. So our wide-legged forward fold. So often you can come, if we're adding into your vinyasa, so you can step forwards and open out to the side. It also works pretty well from a goddess pose. And then turning the feet parallel and then coming forwards. Okay, So, like we were talking about, Belinda was asking the weight in her feet. Often we see this. Can you see the weight? My pelvis is behind my feet. You want to have your weight even across the balls of your feet and your heels, so your pelvis is stacked this way, and that you're not pushing back into the heels. So this is very common in our forward fold folds on that topic. So first of all, if hamstrings are tight, okay, it's best to kind of keep your hands underneath your shoulders, almost in a halfway lift position. So let's talk about forward bends and hamstrings quickly, okay, because this is a big one. And it's going to link to the seated forward folds as well. So Ari, this is also coming to your question as well around the forward fold. So what we're looking for when we bend forwards is to be able to fold from the hips, okay? Because we have a big range of movement in hip flexion, right? When we fold forwards, hip flexion. Of course, when I do that, my hamstrings are being stretched, right? You agree? Now, if my hamstrings are tight, okay, what tends to happen is my pelvis doesn't move with me. So I'm folding forwards, but can you see? I'm not able to move from my hips. I'm not doing hip flexion. All I'm doing now is I'm rounding my back. Can you see the difference? If I move from my hips, this is only if your hamstrings are willing. But if my hamstrings are tight, I'm only getting the stretch in my back. And I'm not actually even accessing my hamstrings because I'm not doing hip flexion. Can you see the difference? Okay, so this is why bending the knees in a forward fold actually gets a better hamstring stretch. So if I now bend my knees, okay, now I can fold from my hip. Now, because I'm doing hip flexion, I'm now accessing my hamstrings. And that's why it's better to bend the knees in a forward fold and be able to fold forwards from your hips, very simply put, rather than keeping legs straight and only getting the stretch in the back. I'm only stretching my spine now, and I'm not actually getting into my hamstrings. Ari, I'm going to check in with you. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. That makes perfect sense.
Okay, you're going to see tomorrow we're going to do seated forward bends, and it's going to translate into that as well. Okay, so in all of these forward bends, by bending the knees a little bit and being able to fold from the hips being the key point, being able to fold from the hips is what we're looking for. And what we don't want in forward bends is excessive rounding in the spine. Okay, my back doesn't round very well that way, so it was a bad demonstration. But you will see if we don't fold from the hips, you only get that stretch in the back, and we're not looking for like a real hunched back in forward folds. Okay, but don't get me wrong, when we forward fold, the back does round, okay, because we're doing spinal flexion when we fold forwards, yes? But we're folding from the hips. So Ruan's giving us some good demonstrations there. Let's spotlight him. Okie dokie. So Ruan, I mean, he's quite flexible. So if you were to bend your knees and now lengthen the spine, if you bend the knees, you're going to be able to get more length in the spine. But now Ruan, because he's quite flexible in his hamstrings, he can also have his legs straight and walk your hands now all the way between your legs. Can you see his back is going to round? That is fine. He's not excessively rounding his back like in a hunched back position. We can see that he's doing the movement by forward folding from his hips. He's able to access that. Okay. Who's got very tight hamstrings here? Who feels that their hamstrings are very tight? Ari, let's go with you. Ari, show me. You can just do it with your feet in your forward fold. Like you were saying, like we were chatting on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
You were saying when you forward fold, keeping legs straight. Yes. And then trying to put your hands on the floor. Okay. Ari's actually not bad. Okay. But look at his lower back. Yes. Can you see the difference? Yeah. So come back to straight legs, Ari. And then reach forwards, keeping your legs straight. And then just pause there for a moment for us. It's really not so bad. He's pretty good. And then let your back round. Just do it how you were doing it. Put your fingers towards the floor. Look at his lower back here. And from the mid to the lower back, can you see there's quite a lot of rounding? And can you see his bum is more in a tucked position? We're not quite getting like downward dog, hips up. Okay. So look at the spine there. Thanks, Ari. That's perfect. Now bend your knees, Ari. Sorry. This is fantastic. And now forward fold with a straight back as you come down. Can you see how much movement he's getting from his hips? Can you see the shape of the spine is less rounded? If you put your feet hip distance, it makes it much easier. Absolutely. Again, it creates space. And then put your hands back in line with your feet. If I'm going to be really fussy, there we are. And then relax your head down. Let your head just hang. Now that, Ari, now just, can you feel you stretching your hamstrings? It hasn't kind of robbed you of the stretch in any way. It may actually make you access your hamstrings even more than your previous version. You're probably just getting a big back stretch. Does that make sense? Yes, now you can push to straighten your legs. Yes, and now that is a better forward fold. And let your head relax. Neck follows line of spine. Perfect. And that slight bend in your knees now, Ari, that is a perfect forward fold for you. Okay. And you're probably getting more of a stretch in your hamstrings. Thank you for demonstrating that so perfectly for us. Okay. Any questions around what we've just discussed? Who else experiences that in their bodies? The same, yeah, Matt, also feel that. So by having a little bit of a bend in the knee really, really helps you to access the pose from the hips by folding forwards from the hips. And that'll be our theme for all of this moving forwards. Okay, so I'm going to come back to our wide-legged forward fold. Thanks for those demonstrations, everyone. Okay, so once we come forwards, feet are either parallel to the sides of the mat or turned in slightly. Try both, see what feels good for you. When we come forwards, we're folding from the hips, keeping the back fairly straight. But once you come down, your back will round. Okay, that is normal because we're doing spinal flexion. We don't want just rounding here in the lower back with the bum tucked and not being able to fold from the hips. Okay. So once I'm here, if hamstrings are tight, you can stay in a halfway lift to be able to encourage more movement from the hips. If this is okay, then we can walk hands in line with the feet, okay? And bring the head towards the floor. It doesn't need to be onto the mat. Of course, that depends. When we come to this position, okay, we're looking for Chaturanga Arms. So I don't want my hands out like this. I want to squeeze the elbows in like Chaturanga and walk the hands back in line with the feet so that from the side, my wrists are in line with my elbows, okay? And my elbows maybe might come in line with the shoulders when you lower down. So take your heels of your hands back in line with your heels of your feet. So wrists in line with heels. Chaturanga arm position, okay? That's version 1. Version 2, we'll interlace fingers behind the head and then forward fold. Watch those with niggly shoulders, that's not feeling too strong for you today. And one last version is with hands in a reverse pray. Okay, this is really tough on your wrists and your shoulders and arms. Give it a bat just as you're sitting. Take your hands behind your back in prayer, but behind. Shoulder issues, don't do it, okay? Not today. It's really tough. Most of us might not be able to get our hands together, and it ends up being quite a sore stretch in the arms. If you're unable to get into this position and then open your chest, it's better to modify by holding your elbows instead. Okay, so what we're looking for, I don't really care what your hands are doing back there, but what we're looking for is to keep the shoulder blades drawing together in that forward fold. So those are going to be the 3 different versions you're going to try in your wide-legged forward fold. Okay, enough chatting, let's give it a go. Come to standing and step your feet out nice and wide out to the sides. In this one, the wider your feet, the closer you get to the floor, if hamstrings are willing. So turn your feet parallel, so feet are pointing forwards. Yes, Ari, take your legs a bit wider apart. Laura, I'm loving those wide legs. You're super wide. You might be a little too wide, but I love it. Okay, bring your hands onto your hips. So we are aware of folding from our hips. As you inhale, lift your chest. So we're creating a sense of awareness of length in the spine. It doesn't have to stay straight, but it's lengthening. And now slowly forward fold from the creases of your hips, from doing hip flexion, keeping the spine lengthened. And then once your hands come to the floor, your back's going to round a bit. Some of you might keep your back perfectly straight. It purely depends on your hamstrings. Matt, see if you can take your feet wider apart. It'll actually, I know it feels very wide, but it becomes easier to get your hands towards the floor. Yes, that looks fantastic now, Matt. Okay, so hands underneath the shoulders is perfect. And Ari, for like your type of body, I would say keep hands underneath shoulders, almost in a halfway lift, okay? And same for you, Matt. If hamstrings are like, whoa, really stretching here, just that halfway point, you're able to get more length in the spine. And this is perfect. Cool. For those that want to go a bit further, if some of you are pancaking yourselves here, like Miriam, you can walk your wrists in line with the heels of your feet. And give it a go if you want to try, Ari and Matt. Just feel the difference. Feel what's happening in your back. Feel how you may round a bit more excessively. Miriam, because your head is on the floor and she's almost run out of space, same for you, Clara, bring your feet closer together. That now has made the floor further away from you and actually makes it harder. So in this case, the wider the feet, the easier. The closer the feet, the harder it is. Ha, who would have thought? Okay, and now show me Chaturanga Arms. So squeeze your elbows in. Yes, nice, Elaine, that looks good. Nice, Belinda. And at least you can walk your hands back a little bit more so your wrists are in line with your heels. Take your feet, yeah, that's it. Perfect, beautiful. Yes, Marley, that looks nice, good. Okay, and then slowly start walking your hands forwards. Nice, Dee. Nice, Lara. Yep, looking good. Nice, Sheena. Hands onto hips and inhale, come up. If you feel your legs feel too wide, you can always shuffle your feet in a little bit closer before coming up. Okay, if you want to step your feet in and just kind of shake that out, please feel free to. Otherwise, next version, we'll do it with our fingers interlaced and arms straight at the back. Elaine, don't do this if your shoulder is sore today. Just repeat the previous version. All right, Belinda, wider legs there. And then when you're ready, inhale, lift your chest and fold forwards from your hips. It is if you're trying to keep your back fairly lengthened and upright. Now, Ari, see if you can open across your chest a little bit more. So lift your chest a bit. Yes, Ari, coming up just that tiny bit. Can you feel how you're opening your shoulders more? Perfect. And it'll be, yes, Matt. So don't go too low that you lose it in the shoulders. The idea here is to keep your chest open. Otherwise, if you're going further, relax your head towards the floor. Just let your head relax. Cindy, you can straighten your legs. Let's have a look. And then fold. That's it, Rowan. See if you can straighten arms a little bit more. And lift your chest slightly more upright will give you that space to do so. Yes, that's better. Good. And then slowly come upright if it's getting a bit intense now. Whew, these get quite hectic. Last version. So everybody hold your elbows behind your back first. This is going to be the nicest one. So you hold your elbows behind your back. Feel how your chest is nice and open. The idea is to keep your chest open. Now, feet nice and wide apart, parallel or turn slightly inwards. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, forward fold from the hips. Good. Ari, take the feet a little wider if that's okay. Yes, that looks great. And then stop where your chest starts to drop. Keep a sense of lift in the chest. Okay. And then shoulder people, please don't do the next one. Come up, and if you'd like to try reverse prayer, you can try reverse prayer. I will warn you, it's not very pleasant. See if you can open your chest, because the idea is to be able to open your chest and bring your shoulder blades together. And if that's not possible, then continue to hold your elbows. And if you want, one more time, forward fold, Elaine, and then come up, Elaine, so you don't overdo it on the shoulders, please. Any niggly shoulder people, back off, don't go crazy. Okay, yes, nice. And then here, if you did reverse prayer, lift your elbows up towards the ceiling. So Sheena, so think of lifting your elbows away from your ribs when you come down. Yeah. Yes, Marley, that looks really nice. So Marley stayed in a halfway lift, and she's got a beautiful position opening her chest and an amazing pose there. So sometimes it's not about putting your head on the floor. It's about going to where she's able to keep her chest lifted. I think that looks stunning. And then Sheena has come lower, and she's able to keep her hands fairly close together in that reverse prayer. Okay, when you're ready, slowly come back up and step your feet together, because that's going to probably feel like enough now. Come back to seated and let me know if you have any questions. Quite strong on the ankles. What are we stretching? Surely you felt what was stretching in your legs. Yep, those hamstrings and inner thighs. Good. Elaine.
I just had a question. I remember the previous, one of the previous classes, what we did was we made a triangle with the Dursty.
Yes.
And then leaned into that.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure where to put the focus, because it felt like we were now just dropping the head.
So now we're doing it as a forward fold, so we're letting the head drop. When we were doing that version, it was for your crow sequence. And it was using that shape to introduce the feeling of the lean forwards and where to look. So in the crow sequence, we did it on our hands and we looked forwards. So there's my bottom corners of the triangle, my drishti is the top corner, and we use this position to feel looking forwards and leaning forwards. Okay. So you can actually do loads in this pose. Sometimes you can bind your toes, you can hold your ankles, you can do a little twist from side to side. So we can really adapt this pose to kind of suit whatever class we're teaching, whatever lesson, whatever we want to get across. And that was the purpose for that crow sequence. We're doing it pretty much as a forward fold, how it's classically taught with different arm variations. And we went through those three. The golden rule with the neck, okay, is your neck follows the line of your spine. So if I'm in a little back bend, my gaze is going to be up. If I'm in a huge back bend, my neck is going to follow that line. If I'm coming into a forward fold, the head is going to come down. So your neck is a part of your spine and should continue whatever your spine is doing, whether it's forward folding or back bending or twisting, the neck and the spine move together. So what we always see is either the head dropping back, okay, and then you scrunching your neck, which I'm going to chat about in the back bends tomorrow, or the head is just dropping forwards and we're not actually getting any movement in the back. So be aware of that with the neck as a golden rule. Okay. We'll go over these poses again when we meet in our small groups the next weekend when we get together. Clara?
I was just thinking about especially the neck going forward, and I don't know, I feel as if it's a very kind of natural thing to do if you sit by the computer a lot. Then it's also like easy to do kind of that stretch, and it feels nice, and the shoulder, and so yeah. No, I don't even know why I'm going.
It's totally great because most of us spend, a lot of people, and the students you're going to be teaching are going to be sitting behind a desk and their neck scrunching forwards like this. So often the neck is very weak, and then when they come to yoga, they're doing the same thing. And the first thing to do is actually, the steps in order to do that is first open up the shoulders in the front, so stretching out pecs so that they're able to bring the shoulders back and then the head back. So it's hugely linked to that posture. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Okie dokie. So if you guys are right with that, I'm going to move on to pyramid pose, and you'll see how this will all kind of link together with the shape of the hips, folding forwards from the hips, and what we're doing with our spine. Are you happy to move on? Okay. So pyramid pose is next. Parsvottanasana. This pose can be done in many different ways. You can do it with your back heel on the floor, which I haven't taught you, or you can do it from high lunge where you're more on the ball of the back foot, how we've been doing it in our classes, right? And the reason why I like it on the ball of the back foot is because it links nicely with high lunge, and if you're opening up into triangle pose, it transitions beautifully. Okay, so it works well in vinyasa yoga, but you can also step your back foot in and have it as a shorter stance as well. I'll try and cover all of that and show you the differences as well. So pyramid pose, we can come like we naturally do in a vinyasa. We're stepping forwards from our downward facing dog. So if I come plank, down dog, this is my distance. I step forwards, okay? And either from a high lunge with knee stacked over ankle or a low lunge, I can fold forwards into pyramid. Or if my hand's on the floor and I just straighten my front leg like we did both in the class today, we can get into pyramid. And in this long stance, it translates nicely to open up into triangle and things like that. Works beautifully. Where pyramid is also being taught with the back heel down, you'll see my stance is a lot shorter now. And it just makes it harder, like if I'm linking into something else, my stance is a little bit short and doesn't link as easily. But it can be taught in both ways, okay? I also like the wider stance because on the ball of the back foot, what are my hips able to do more of? If we compare a warrior one back foot and a high lunge back foot, what did we notice about the hips? We're able to have our hips pointing more towards the front of the mat. Okay, so if you're doing this pose with the heel grounded, okay, your foot should not face out to the side because then you can't turn your hips to the front. Does that make sense? If I'm doing it with the back heel grounded, my toes pretty much pointing forwards, just as if I walk, that's pretty much the stance. Like if you just step back into it. So it can be done both ways. We'll do it from a high lunge because it just makes life easier for you and as when you teach. All right, so let's talk about folding from the hips, okay? Again, I want to be able to fold from the hip. If my hamstrings are tight and I'm not able to fold from the hip, I'm going to get excessive rounding in the back. And that's not what we're looking for. In that case, we could bend the knee like we saw earlier, then bring hands to the floor and focus a little bit more on lengthen the spine. And alternatively, sorry, yoga blocks are also great to put laptops on. Alternatively, we were talking about blocks. These are awesome when it comes to pyramid pose. So here we can have it all. Because I've come higher up, spine more lengthened and have the support of hands on blocks. All right. And in this way, if hamstrings are tight, you can use props to have it all. Okay. Alternatively, hands can be on the floor. You could walk hands forwards. You could walk hands back, depending on what you're teaching in your sequence. I mean, today we did it in airplane arms so that you could feel where the chest is parallel to the floor in our warrior 3. Okay. Want to give that a go? If you have blocks, very fun to play with. If you don't worry. Okay, so plank into downward dog. Let's get a nice long stance. In Vinyasa Yoga, this will link poses more effectively. Okay, nice. Yo, Ari, that downward dog has changed. That looks really nice. It's amazing when your hamstrings are super warmed up, Ari, how your spine is so much more lengthened in your down dog. You feel the difference? So cool. All right, let's step the right foot forwards. You can come from low lunge or high lunge. Let's do it from high lunge. Inhale your arms up. And then straighten your front leg. And slowly, before you go, put your hands on your hips. So as we said in the class today, you heard me say scissor the hips. Bring your right hip back, left hip forward, so your hip bones are both in line with one another. Can you feel that? And then like that, you can forward fold from your hips. So you can even have your hands on your hips because you'll feel that that movement should be coming from hip flexion as you lower down. Nice, Matt. Awesome use of blocks there, Ari. That is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Marley loving the blocks, everyone. Good. Okay, bring your hands towards the floor. So Elaine has bent the front knee a little bit, which is working perfectly because it's helping to keep her back more lengthened. So that's fantastic. If you wanted the front leg straight, you could also use your blocks, Elaine. And you can actually get away without either because that's also fine. All right. Everybody just feel, for the sake of interest, bend your front knee. Feel like you can lengthen the spine more. Okay, so just those with long hamstrings that don't experience it, that is how you could modify for students. If they didn't have blocks, then you can straighten your front leg. Bring your hand onto your shin and do a halfway lift. If you come up higher, it's also easier to get more length in the spine. I'm not saying your back has to be perfectly straight because it won't when you come all the way down. But this is how we modify the pose to fold more from the hips instead of only rounding in the back. Okay, let's release, ground your hands back to downward dog. Feel that on the other side before I go on talking too much. Left foot steps forwards. Inhale, arms up, high lunge. Good. Straighten your front leg. Look at your hips. So Cindy, stay on the ball of your back foot and square your hips. Put your hands onto your hips and draw your left hip back and right hip forward. So both hips face the front of your mat. Yes, Cindy. Yes, 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 like that. Yes. Then forward fold with both hips pointing forwards. So can you feel here, we want the pelvis to be pointing forwards like warrior 3. Does that make sense? Good. And then find your version, either on blocks or maybe like Miriam, she's folded in half. She's walked her hands back. Cindy again, scissor your hips more there. So yes, Cindy. Now put your hands on the floor because I think that's totally fine for you. Yes, and then straighten your front leg. That's it. Nice, D. Good use of the blocks there. Nice. All right, lovely poses, everyone. You've got it. You've got it. And then you can always fold head to shin for those very flexy ones. And when your head folds onto your shin, your back will most definitely round. And that is okay. All right, slowly bend the front knee, release, step forward, step back, whatever you need to release. Okay, Did that answer your questions around pyramid pose? Let's have a chat. So we spoke about the hips being straight there. Did that make sense? Okay, so often the cue is to scissor the hips. Front hip goes back, back hip comes forwards, and that keeps the pelvis more straight. Okay, Cindy, could you feel that when you went into your pyramid, keeping those hips straight? Okay, so Cindy was putting her back heel on the floor, and then it was making it much harder for her to turn her hips to face the front. Yes, nice, Clara. Clara's doing a very traditional way of doing the pose in reverse prayer. So you felt reverse prayer in your wide-legged forward fold. It can also be taught here, like Clara's doing, and basically it's to emphasize keeping your chest a little bit more lifted without excessive rounding in the back. Yes, and a very Iyengar Ashtanga way of doing the pose. Ashtangi at heart over there, I can see. Nice. Okay, so again, you can do different arm versions to suit what the purpose of your class is. Elaine, and then we'll come to you, Dee.
Thanks so much. I'm just wondering if my stance isn't too wide, because I think maybe it's why I'm struggling to balance, because what I'm finding is that when I go into a high lunge, I'm actually not on the ball of my foot, I'm on my tiptoes.
Yeah, okay. So
do you think
Elaine, I think you have to show me so I can see, because I have to just have a look-see to answer you correctly. It is harder to balance when your legs are wider, but in a lot of ways, it makes the pose easier because you'll be closer to the floor to put your hands on, and it also gives you more space. So where, yes, is always harder to balance when you're on the ball of the back foot, in a lot of ways, it actually keeps the spine straighter. Elaine, if it is a problem, just step your back foot in a little bit, and that's also totally fine, so that you don't feel that you're too wide. And you need to also just feel what feels best for your body. Okay. And if you're unsure during the week, just send me some pics and we can also have a look so I can check in. Dee, you have a question?
I do. Hello. I just feel that my legs are possibly, my feet are possibly too wide apart in my down dog, and then when I come up into the pyramid pose and I look back between my legs, it almost looks as if my extended leg is like not directly behind me. So do you know what I mean? It's kind of almost like out to the side, too far.
Yes.
So would that, where are my feet going in down dog then? Do they need to be with hip as well?
Yes.
With distance?
Absolutely, Dee. So maybe just check that your plank and your downward dog, your feet aren't too wide apart. And I don't know, women always think their hips are wider than what they are. So you want your feet pretty much like this, just hip distance apart, maybe shorten your distance in plank and downward dog to begin with, okay? So that your feet are like this, so when you step forwards, I call it like 2 tracks. So you've got your right foot is forwards in a high lunge, your left foot is back behind you, but definitely not too wide. Some people like it wide, and that's also okay. But if you feel like that's throwing you off, then it's probably stemming from already your plank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just have one more question. I notice that every time I go into any of those leg forward, one leg back poses, I immediately adjust my foot. I kind of, it immediately tilts inwards. The heel goes out. That just, I mean, it just feels more balanced. So is that a funny foot, or do I need to just work on that?
You want your front foot to point forwards like this, and we don't want to be turning in like this, Dee. So it might also be because your feet are too wide like this. You won't need to kind of adapt. It might be from that your first question. But yes, we don't want that foot turning in. We want that foot pointing forwards because it's going to translate to what's happening on in your knee. And we don't want that knee then rolling forwards.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so check in and let me know if that changes from your plank and downward dog.
I will. Thank you.
Ruan.
Hi. I just had a question about the scissoring of the hips and stuff. So I'll kind of just demonstrate it like this. So if I've got my one leg behind me like this, so is that almost like slightly turning like this?
Exactly.
Because I wanted to know if you're folding forward, are you folding in the direction of the mat, or are you actually folding over your leg?
You're folding in the direction of your mat. So when you come forwards, so your hips, you're actually just bringing your hips to straight. Okay. So because we start off like this, one hip back, place your hands on your hips again. And then just bring your hip bones into one straight line. Yes. So think of that as just bringing them into straight, but not turning too much towards your front leg, just straight.
Okay.
Yes. And now when you forward fold, you're bringing your spine straight forwards in line with what would normally be your mat. Yes. Just like that.
Not here.
Correct. You're not going over the front leg. You're coming straight down.
Okay, perfect.
Good observation. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I love all those finer little details as well, so I get it. This one, nice and straightforwards. Thanks, Ruan, and good demonstration of what's going on in the hips there as well for you guys. Any other questions around your pyramid pose? Clara?
So I guess maybe the version that Ruan is also thinking about is I don't know if it would be a pyramid pose, but it's that Ashtanga one, where you have a shorter one, even shorter than I just did, and then the back foot out, and then you go over your leg, right?
It depends kind of, I guess, what style you've been taught. If they like that rotation, I know in Iyengar yoga as well, there's some poses where you do almost line your spine up with your front leg and you've almost got this rotation. So when it comes to pyramid pose, it's most accessible just coming straight forward, especially for your beginners. Unless you wanted to teach it a little bit with a rotation and a forward fold for a particular reason, then of course, go for it. Again, it's just going to come to different styles. We'll teach it in different ways. But also, and let's just feel this as an observation. Let's do the shorter stance, okay? Because you've probably been taught this way in classes as well. So you felt what your pyramid felt like. Now come to standing at the top of your mat and just kind of step one foot back. And I'm always trying to think about how I can make poses accessible for students and particularly beginners. So if you just step one foot back, one foot is forwards, and now forward fold. In a shorter stance, do you feel that you have more or less space to forward fold? And you crazy flexy ones might not feel too much difference. Is it as easy to square your hips? Ari's feeling his ankles, yeah. Matt doesn't like it. So our guys that feel a little bit more restricted in their hamstrings, both are like shaking their heads and really unhappy with that one. Now go wide feet, just as you are there, same leg, and just step your back foot way wider back, and then on the more of the ball of your back foot D. And now forward fold. Do you feel that that gives you more space, firstly to fold forwards, but also feel what's happening in your back? Are you able to lengthen more? Yeah, Matt, what a difference. Okay. So again, there's different ways. There's different ways to move. Understand what are the differences and what are the outcomes and who you're teaching and what's going to work best for the bodies that you're teaching. Ruan, is your hand up again, or was that from earlier? Go for it. Oh, no. Okay. Could you feel the difference? So, Matt, yes. You had a big change there. Ruan?
Biggest difference was I don't think it changed my hip position, because I think that kind of stayed the same for me, but I felt more of a calf stretch.
And your back leg? That's
the only difference I felt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So look at Matt. When Matt does it, if you don't mind, Matt's going to do it in a short stance. And I'm going to spotlight him so you can see. Okay, and he's coming down. So he isn't actually very restricted in his hamstrings. He can actually do everything pretty great. That's it. And that's pretty much as far as he's comfortable to go. And less space to fold forwards, okay? And then when Matt takes his feet a little bit wider apart, and then squaring his hips on the ball of the back foot, is going to be harder to balance, okay? Elaine, it's going to be harder to balance. And then he's going to fold forwards. And there's much more freedom of movement. Can you see how much further now he's able to come down? And now his spine will also stay more lengthened for most people in a wider stance. And then, of course, it links well to stepping back into downward dog. His legs and hands will be in the right place as well. So that also links poses better. Where in a short stance, it's quite hard to link it then to something else other than just stepping forwards again. Thanks, Matt. Do you feel a big difference there? Good. All right. And then we'll come to you, Elaine.
What I've realized is when I'm forward folding with the straight leg, I'm getting hyperextension in the knee. So it's okay to forward fold with a bent leg and then straighten afterwards.
Perfect. So now you're figuring out those little finer tweaks that work better for your body. Absolutely. Clara?
I think the difference for me with the short and the long just now is that I feel maybe as if there's not space for my tummy as much when I do the shorter one. That it's more naturally easy to stretch over if you have the longer pose.
Yes, interesting. Nice observation, Clara. Cool. Yeah, so for me, gives people more space, which I like, makes it more accessible for maybe tighter bodies. And then also it links to all the other poses beautifully. So if I'm trying to link into a vinyasa flow, stepping forwards from high lunge, low lunge, opening triangle, it just is easier. It makes your life easier as a teacher as well and for your students. But no, there's always different ways to do poses, and question always what you're doing it for and who you're doing it with. And then that'll help you to clarify which option is best for you to be doing. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Well done. Okie dokie. And then just 2 more poses. We are spending the evening on forward folds, but that's okay. It's important because these poses are all in your assessment and we do them lots. So important to understand what's going on. Everyone, right? Still with me? Not too tired? It's quite an intensive session for the Friday evening. Rohan has loads of energy. Okay, I'm going to come to our forward fold and halfway lift next. Okay, so we do this loads when we are teaching a sun salutation. So it's pretty much in most of our classes, right? Okay. And we kind of already touched on this earlier where we saw Ari doing it with his knees a bit bent and how he's able to fold more from the hips. And then we'll also discuss our halfway lift as well. Okie dokie. I'll show you quick and then we'll go through it just briefly because we've touched on it already. Okay, so normally feet are together because you've come from Tadasana, okay? Or feet can also be apart. It's easier to fold with feet hip distance apart. Kind of depends what feels good for you. So we inhale, arms up, and we exhale, forward fold. Remember, arms can come forwards or out to the sides when you forward fold. Again, we're trying to fold forwards from the hips, and if that's not possible, then a little bend in the knees to bring the hands to the ground. What I don't want is this. Okay, rather don't leave your students hanging here. Let them bend their knees and put their hands on the floor and relax the head down. I'm quite pedantic. I like hands in line with feet because we're always stepping forwards and back with our feet between our hands. So if that's okay for you, your fingers and toes on one straight line and you're forward folding. Okay, if it's okay, of course, straight legs if that works for you. And I'm folding from the hips. And Never forget about the head. Remember golden rule, neck follows the line of the spine. So the head is relaxed in a forward fold, which most people don't like to do, okay? So we almost have to instruct, relax the head down and forward fold, okay? And then coming back to Belinda, a lot of the time people have their weight back into their heels, okay? Weight even across the balls of the feet and the heels. So the hips are above the ankles, all right? Then as we move into a halfway lift, so remember Michaela is able to do it with her fingertips on the ground with a straight back. Fabulous, then you can do it that way. For most of us, coming up will help you to lengthen the spine more. So when you teach, when you demonstrate, most of your students will need to come into a halfway lift with hands on shins to be able to halfway lift. And in this, we're trying to get a lifted chest, a nice lengthened spine without the neck crunching. Neck in line with spine. All right, so it's actually quite an active pose. You'll be feeling those back muscles working nicely. All right, let's give it a go. At the top of your mat, come to standing in Tadasana. Feet together or feet apart, whatever works for you. Feet apart is easier, but if it's okay, keep feet together. Inhale your arms up, high mountain. And then forward fold, either with arms in front of you or out to the side. Come all the way down. At a certain point, maybe bend your knees. Everybody bend your knees. Just feel what it feels like, okay? Because it's not only about you, it's also about the students you're going to be teaching. Bending your knees, can you feel how it's easier to fold from your hips? Okay. And then everybody's back is just in a gentle, rounded position and not excessively rounded. So this works perfectly for most people. Bring your hands in line with your feet. So your fingernails and your toenails are on one straight line. This is just a little bit of OCD, this is my issue. But it works nicely when you step forwards and back because you're always stepping your feet between your hands, right? Okay, straighten your legs if you wish. If you are able to keep the spine fairly in a gentle rounding, not excessive rounding. And Ari, take your hands back in line with your feet a little bit more. There we are, hands back. So your hands on either side of your feet. Yes, just like that. And now watch your head, relax your head down. Perfect. Okay, that is our forward fold. Now inhale to a halfway lift. Keep your fingertips on the floor. Feel what it feels like. Are you able to lift your chest? If not, bring your hands to your shins. Everybody do that, even if you can, and feel how much more you're able to lift your chest. This is where most of us will need to be. Yes, very nice. Now check your neck. Lengthen the back of your neck. Straight legs, fairly straight, lengthened spine without the neck scrunching. Press your chest forward so you actually feel your upper back muscles are quite engaged here. Yes, and weight even across your feet. Most of you, your weight is back in your heels. Shift a little bit more weight towards the balls of the feet. Yes. And then release, head down and soften. And you can rise back up to standing or seated and release. Oh, well done. That is looking way better. So we can all feel now we're getting a nice fold from those hips. Nice pistol squat there, Ron. Just that last bit a little bit smoother. Okay. Any questions around that? Ari, that looks awesome. Well done. Okay. Marley, hi.
Hey. I have a question on the forward fold.
Yes.
I'm slightly confused. I've been doing it so many years, but I'm not sure. Is it supposed to be a 90 degree? No.
What's 90
it depends.
degrees? The halfway lift.
Yes, sorry, the halfway lift. So you're standing like this.
Maybe not quite. You don't have to come up so that you're that high. You'll be like that. But it depends on how high you need to lift in order to lift your chest. So for some, we'll need to come to that 90 to be able to lift their chest, where some will be able to lift their chest with their fingertips on the floor. So it kind of depends on the body.
It depends on the chest or on your spine to be straight with your neck.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
So for you, Marley, you probably don't need to come up all the way to 90. Just hands to shins, halfway lift. You may be like that. Okay. And that is also totally fine.
Okay, cool.
As long as what we're looking for there is that lovely lifting in the chest where the shoulder blades are almost pressing into the back to broaden collarbones. And if you're able to achieve that with your fingers on the floor, cool. Or if you need to come up in however high, maybe even higher than 90 in order to do that, that's also fine.
Okay.
Good question though, because halfway, you think halfway. So it is a great question. Thanks, Marley. Anything else to do with our forward fold and halfway lift? Okay. So I want to chat about one more forward bend because I'm sure your hamstrings are like feeling very, very stretched at this point, which is a great time to do standing splits. Some love it, some hate it. It pretty much depends on your hamstrings. Okay. So standing splits. All right. So this, again, we've chatted a little bit around the hips, right? Remember when we were doing other poses, if we keep our hips parallel, your back leg doesn't go as high, like in Warrior 3, like we've just done. And remember when we allowed the hips to open, like in dancer's pose, how your back leg goes higher up. So there's two different ways of doing standing splits, whether you want the hips straight, leg won't go very high, or if I'm teaching a big pose where I want your leg to go high up at the back, to take that leg up into hip extension, you need to allow the hips to open. Okay, and it actually feels a lot nicer. Okay, so I'll show you very quickly and then you can give it a go. So we can come from a forward fold or from pyramid pose to get into standing splits. Okay, so I could simply forward fold and take one leg back. Okay, or from a pyramid pose, I can slide my hands forwards and come into standing splits. So your hands are underneath your shoulders. Okay. So you can kind of lean a bit on your hands. They're going to help you to balance here. Okay, very useful. Tighter hamstrings, bend the bottom knee a little bit and focus on lifting the back leg. So if you bend your knees in a forward fold, more than likely you will do the same in a standing split and it's going to give you the space to take that leg up. Okay. If my hips are square, my back leg will only lift about that high. Okay? If I allow my hips to open, it's going to give me space to take that back leg higher. Okay? So that is going to be the huge difference, what I want you to feel. From here, if you want to take this pose further, you can take a bind. If you really want to go for it, you take the same hand as bottom leg, behind the calf. I'm going to use this bottom hand to rest on and help me to balance to forward folding that standing splits. Okay, and I'm using a lot of my weight on this hand to stop me from falling over. If you want to take that pose into a bind. Okay. All right, let's see. Just have fun with it. Wherever you go is fine. So from pyramid or from a forward fold, right leg forwards, left leg back. And now first, feel what happens if you square your hips. Okay, I'm just getting to see you all. Okay, if you square your hips, that leg is not going anywhere, right? It's going to go pretty much in line with the hip. Bend your bottom leg and feel how that's also going to make it easy as a modification. Yes. Then you can just focus on getting that back leg up. Now, allow your hips to open. So your back hip is going to turn and open out to the side, and feel how that gives you space for your back leg to lift. Good. Much easier, right? And if you'd like to try the bind, right hand goes behind right calf. Rest a bit of weight on your left hand. Nice, Miriam. Oh, she's flexy, this one. And then the more you bring your head to your shin and fold forwards, I also feel that helps to get the leg up higher. So the more you fold, the more that leg lifts. Yes, the dancers just love this one. And then try that on the other side. So feel the difference in having the bottom leg bent would be our first modification. So Cindy, put your hands on the floor and then just bend your bottom knee a bit. Yes, just like that. Now focus on lifting the back leg up. That's perfect, Cindy. Yes. And then with hips squared and with hips open, feel how different the pose can feel. You feel the difference there, Dee, when your hips are parallel to when your hips are open, how your back leg goes higher if you want. If you want that back leg high, you need to allow the hips to open, basically. Your back foot can be pointed, flexed, or flointed. I like a floint. It's a silly word, but it's between a point and flex, where you're pushing to the ball of the foot and you're flexing your toes back towards you. Yes, like Sheena's doing. She's figuring out those back toes. And then when you're ready, you can release. Well done. And we'll leave your hamstrings alone for the rest of the evening, okay? Whew, very stretched out now. Questions? So it's the more you allow that back hip to open, the more you can free up a pose. If you want that leg high, open the hips. Marley.
I find this pose the most difficult of all. It is always so sore. I'm just like, why couldn't I do it? You make it look so easy and you're pregnant. It's crazy. You're just like, whoop, there you go, just do this.
And some things you're gonna hate. And for me, this is one of my love poses. This is my love pose.
Oh. We know year half splits. I'm like, no, I don't.
So basically, your bottom leg hamstring is stretching big time. But what I love about it, your bum of your top leg, your glute and your hamstring is actually having to strengthen and contract to take that leg up at the back. So I love the strength element of this pose. It's not only, okay, it's hugely flexibility based, let's just be real, but it's also requiring a lot of strength to lift that leg up at the back. And that's cool. Give it time.
Sorry?
Give it time. You might come around to love it. But you know, some poses you just won't love.
Is it okay though that I don't try and lift too high and just keep it straight for my hip?
Go to where your body works. If that's better for your hip, if it's better for your body, go to where it works for you. I mean, all I'm looking for when it comes to this pose, talking assessment wise, is that you've got your hands on the floor and your back leg is straight. Whether your leg is here or up here, I don't really care, because you're just going to go to where your leg goes. And let's face it, when we teach this pose to your beginners, you think it feels bad. Imagine how they're going to feel about it.
Yeah, true.
As long as that back leg is strong and active, fantastic. I don't care where it goes.
Okay, cool.
Dee?
So I've just been Googling while you were chatting there, because I'm getting terrible cramps. It's happened the whole night, right around the band. I'll actually show you. It's here. Top in my hip flexor, all the way around. What can I do to?
Your bum is working. Good.
Right from the beginning. Okay.
In the standing balances, D, like in Warrior 3, like we've done tonight, that's your glute medius is your side little bum muscle. It's a big hip stabilizer, especially when you're standing on one leg. It's actually a really good muscle to be strong. So it's all good. It's a good thing.
Okay, cool.
It's a good thing.
Let's start foam rolling. What's foam rolling?
Foam rolling is when you roll your butt out on one of those nasty hard foam rollers.
Yeah.
Everyone's running for it. He seems like one of those people that loves foam rolling. It's torture. If you like pain. That looks like an evil one. It's got spikes. Horrible. But yes, it's nice to release cramps and sore bums. Okay, everyone, those are all the standing forward bends. Okay, we'll talk more about forward bends tomorrow. I want to quickly check in with our standing poses. I know it's been a long night. We haven't got much time. I don't expect much from you, don't worry. Let's check in with the standing forward, standing poses we learned last weekend. Let's talk about Warrior 2. Okay. So remember, I chatted to you guys saying these are really important poses because we do them a lot when we teach our beginners. And remember, we incorporated all those natural hip positions. Remember how we were enforcing our hips to face the side, but we were allowing our hips to just fall into their natural position. And how has that been going with now practicing those poses during the week? I know it's hard to break habits. Could you feel the difference, and could you feel any benefits to allowing your hips to be more natural? Is that making sense? Would you like me to go over that again? Are we sure on what I mean with the hips? Okay, so now let's just do a little run through. We're going to come into a Warrior 2, take it into a side angle pose, and then come up and straighten and move into triangle pose, because those three link beautifully together. I'll try not hold you in the poses for too long because I know your body is quite tired at this point. If you need to come out of the pose at any point, please listen to your body. We'll come from plank. We'll go through them and then check if you have any questions afterwards. Okay, so from plank, so D, let's check those feet onto wide now, hey?
Yeah.
And then slowly push into your downward facing dog, which feels a bit longer, but I must say, this week your downward dogs have transformed. I'm most impressed. Yay, all of you are looking fantastic. Well done. Sweep your right leg up for a three-legged dog and then step it through between your hands. Good. Come up into a high lunge, inhale, arms up, and then turn to the side into Warrior 2. So ground the back heel. Check your heel of your front foot is in line with the arch of your back foot. Knee stacks over ankle, so bend that knee nice and deep. Ground your back heel there, Elaine, for Warrior 2. Back heel down, yes. Now look at your shoulders. So Ari, you're leaning forwards. Lean your shoulders back to stack your shoulders over your hips, yes. And those are the three main points in your Warrior 2. So D, face towards me with your arms out to the sides. Yes. Now your hips are in a natural position so you can push that right knee out, remember? Yes, Annalise, good work with that back hip. Now bring your right elbow onto your right thigh for a modified side angle pose. Sweep your left arm, remember the downward sweep, sometimes will feel nice for your shoulder, and then over in line with your ear. So here we're looking for that side angle line. Marley, your legs could be a little wider. Cindy, watch you don't sink into your bottom shoulder. Push down through that bottom arm. Yes. And if you'd like to bring your hand to the floor in side angle, go for it. That's it, Miriam. Just drop your hips a little bit deeper, Miriam. Yes. And twist your chest open now. Good. And then Clara, try be on your fingertips of your bottom hand and feel how that helps you to open the chest more. Wow, what a difference. Nice poses. Okay, inhale, come back up to standing. Straighten your front leg and move into triangle pose. Keep your right leg where it is and reach to the right. Now remember your back hip comes with you. Bring right hand to shin, left arm up to the ceiling. Elaine, place your hand on your shin. Yes, and then reach left arm straight up to the sky. Now remember, when you look down over your bottom shin. Lean your shoulders back so your shoulders are stacking over that bottom shin. And now twist your chest open. Yes, lengthening through the sides of the waist with natural hips. Good poses, looking good. All right, then you can inhale, come up, do a little reverse triangle just so we can flow out of it and move back into downward facing dog. If you have any questions, hold them in your mind. Let's feel it on the other side. Okie dokie, stepping the left foot forwards into a high lunge. Okay, check knees stacked over ankle. We've got a nice wide stance. Yes. Then open out into warrior two. So you ground your back heel for warrior two. Arms open out to the sides. Your heel of your front foot is in line with the arch of your back foot. Wider, Michaela, wider. Bend the front knee to stack knee over ankle. Annalise, bend a little deeper into that front knee. Now look at your shoulders. Ari, you have got it on this side. Shoulders stack over hips. Nice, Matt. Nice, Sheena. Yes. Good. Now deep warriors. Work into those legs. Push that left thigh out. Okay, side angle pose, either elbow on the thigh or hand to the floor, and then sweep your right arm over in line with your ear and show me if you can get that beautiful side diagonal line. Yes, better on this side, Elaine. Good. Nice pose there, Michaela. Good. Bend a little deeper, Miriam. So in these ones, you can bend deeper. Yes, now your hips are in that beautiful line. And Miriam, your top palm, turn it to face the floor. Yes, that's it. And then inhale, come up, straighten your front leg. Watch Cindy, you're sinking into that shoulder again. Remember to press down. Okay, triangle poses next. Straighten your front leg. Reach to the left, nice natural hips. And bring left hand to shin. Reach right arm over and allow your back hip to roll forwards. Natural hips is what I really want you to be experiencing here. Now look at your bottom shin. Annalise, lean back so that your shoulders are above your bottom thigh. Annalise, lean back to me more. Lean back, lean back, lean back. Yes, with your chest. Yes, that's better. And twist your chest open. Top arm straight up to the ceiling. There we are. Well done, everyone. And then inhale, come up, reverse your triangle, windmill the arms back into downward facing dog. Okie dokie. So let's come down and have a little chat. Okie dokie. So first of all, warrior two. So remember the placement of your feet there, Elaine. You had to ground your bottom, your back heel there. So remember that standard yogi foot position. Back foot is turned in a little bit. Front foot is turned out 90 degrees and the heel of your front foot is in line with the arch of your back foot. So every time you enter that pose, remember, scan from the base and work your way upwards. Are my feet in the right place? Then are my knees in the right place? What are my hips doing? What are my ribs doing? What are my shoulders doing? Arms, drishti. Okay, so get into a habit of scanning from the bottom up, because it's going to help you when you're teaching as well. Because when you teach, you don't want to talk about head, then feet, then toe, then you want to kind of cue nice and in an order. Does that make sense? Okay. Ari, you got lovely leaning back of your shoulders on the second side. You felt that. Awesome. Okay. And then the feet nice and wide. Yeah. So any questions around warrior two? Clara.
I think that if I do a wider stance, it's more difficult to stay straight with the upper body because you need to lift more, and I feel like I'm not strong enough for that. So if you do the warrior with not a 90-degree, but like a bit of an open, is that okay? An opening?
You're strong. I want it all. You can do it. So Clara, it's just a little bit of more work into those legs. And Clara, remember that feeling we were talking about last weekend of lifting up through the ribs? That's also going to give you that space to make it feel like your torso feels lighter and the upper body is almost just floating above those hips. So the upper body is light and lifted and the lower body is deep and grounded and strong. And I think you can have it all. She got no sympathy there. You can do it. You can do it. Any other questions around your warrior two? So I am looking for a nice wide stance with your knees stacked over your ankle at that 90-degree angle. It's going to take a little bit of time. You're going to feel it in those legs. But that is going to look like an amazing, punchy, strong pose. And that's how we want you to go out and teach, looking good. And Michaela, wider legs.
I was actually going to ask you about that now. So maybe I can send you a video. So that's me not changing my legs at all from downward dog and from my plank. Okay. So I'm not bringing them in. So maybe I'm not long enough in my plank or my downward dog or something.
Proportions do play a role, so I get you. Proportions do play a role. I feel that I also have to be a bit wider. And you know what I do, Michaela? When I step in, okay, front foot forwards, instead of bringing my back toes in, I take my back heel out.
Oh, okay.
And it's like one of those ridiculously pedantic, tiny little things. But for me, if I put my toe in, I'm too narrow. If I take my heel out, it actually makes me a wee bit wider. And for me, that gets a nice stance. So maybe just fiddle with that a little bit. And, you know, sometimes you might not fall into the most perfect position. You might have to do a little bit of a shuffle. But that's my tip for just a little bit of extra space when you come up. Give it a go and see how it feels.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, I've been nailing Michaela on her wider stance. Because it gives you more space, and once your legs are stronger, it will actually make the pose easier, like you felt in pyramid. More space. Okay,
definitely.
Cool. Then we went into side angle pose, and you had the option to have your elbow on your thigh or your hand on the floor. You're going to do both in your assessment so that you can demonstrate both for your students. Okay, so Miriam, we said for you there that you had to bring your hips down a little bit. So Miriam is super flexy, so she can put her hand on the floor without even bending. So Miriam, hips down a little bit, and then that is going to brought you into that beautiful side angle line. And then Miriam as well, try that down sweep because your hand was turned towards me a little bit. See if you can get that arm to wrap so that the palm is facing down like that. Yes, exactly. Can you see how pedantic I'm starting to get with you guys?
But then I feel like I'm also sinking into the bottom arm.
Yeah,
sometimes.
So don't think too much. Be on your fingertips, okay? So you're light on that hand, but actually just bend more from your legs. Use your quads more. So if you could be there using all your leg strength, just hips down a little bit lower. Okay, so check in with that, Miriam. Let me know how it feels. I know what you mean. Don't sink. Use your legs more and don't rest on your bottom hand. Be light on your fingertips. So on that fingertips note, Clara, I made you go onto your fingertips and it completely transformed your pose. So when we talk about fingertips, I love fingertips because look what happens with Clara. So Clara, I've spotlighted you to show us. She's going to do a flat hand, okay, like she first had, and then move into side angle pose, okay? So she can have wider legs And then bend deeper in that front knee, so knees stacked over ankle, shin is parallel. Now her legs are beautiful. When she popped up onto her fingertips there, could you see how she opened her chest more? Go back to a flat hand, Clara. Chest is lower. Can you see? When she pops up onto her fingertips, can you feel how she opens more? Now, Clara, stay there and do the downward sweep. Bring your hand towards the floor and then over in line with your ear. Yeah. So follow me and then past your face and then into that position. Palm facing the floor, flat hand, yes. And now she's brought her arm, her shoulder into a more comfortable position. So Clara, now I'm going to get fussy. No jazz hands, fingers together and reach your fingertips up slightly. Yes. And now, can you guys see that beautiful side angle pose? If I'm fussy, bend your front knee slightly more to keep knee stacked over ankle. Perfect. Well done. Okay, thanks, Clara. So on the fingertips, we saw a lot there. That was a fantastic demonstration. On the fingertips of the bottom hand, if you're going that low, it really helps you to open up your chest more. Flat hand tends to drop. And on fingertips helps you to open up more. Unless you have super long arms, which some people do, that it doesn't make too much difference because their arms are so long that they can open up. But for most of us on those fingertips, helps you to get that lift. Could you see that? Okay, awesome. So this is why it's helpful to video and look at yourself and see if you can do those little finer adjustments. Because you could see with Clara, she was doing this with her hand. So we told her to bring her fingers together and flatten her hand. It's those like little subtle things. Yeah. And then she got into such a gorgeous pose. Thank you. All right. Any other questions around your side angle pose? Run.
I've heard the cue that you almost externally rotate your hands.
Yes.
So when you sweep up, you're basically doing this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that, but it's basically doing that.
Absolutely. So if you can, I mean, I was thinking, okay, now how are we going to instruct that to students that don't know what external rotation is? So yeah, you're 100% right. But now find the words, Ron, to describe that in a way that makes sense for people who are not going to know about anatomy. So baby fingers facing towards the floor. Think of rolling your baby finger towards the mat or something like that to encourage that feeling in an easy way to describe. Yeah. And that's why this is the exact reason why I love the downward sweep, because it helps to bring the arm into that. When you come from above and then over, maybe less so. But you guys must explore that and see. That's just my tip with that one. Okay. Clara, bend that front knee more. Yes. All right. Any other questions with side angle? Nice pose, Ruan. So stay there, Ruan. Can you see the beautiful side angle line? If you're going to be fussy, Ruan, take your arm a little bit closer to your ear by like a centimeter. There, perfect. Perfect. Knee stacked over ankle on the fingertips so you can open his chest. And we've got that beautiful side diagonal line. And that's what we're looking for. Just like that now every time. Thank you. Good. All right. Can we talk about triangle pose? Okay, so this is a biggie. I always find triangles one of the hardest poses to get because now we've got that flexibility component in there from the hamstrings and the inner thighs. Okay, all of you are doing natural hips pretty well over there. So can you all feel how the natural hips have really helped your triangles? Yay, I can see the difference. So basically what it's done is it brought you able to come low enough to put your hand on your shin. And what it also does is keep the sides of your waist lengthened. So you're not like in a hunched triangle position, but that your torso is nice and lengthened in your triangle pose. So that was looking a lot better. When we were in triangle pose, I made you all look down and check where your shoulders were. Could you feel that? So the common thing is You lean forwards in your triangle and you think that you're twisting, but you're just taking this arm back, okay? You need to have that sense of like leaning your head back, leaning your shoulders back, and that opens the chest up in your triangle pose. Alanis, I was talking to you about that because you feel it on the second side when you got that leaning back. Okay, remember, that's why it's quite nice to play with this one against the wall, and you kind of feel that leaning back towards the wall. Michaela.
So Ruan actually sent a message. I don't know if you can see the comments, but out of all of the poses with the natural hips, triangle, it was like an absolute game changer. And yeah, just the biggest benefit for me is just not having constant pain in my hip when I'm doing these poses. Like just breathing and like relaxing into them makes them so much more enjoyable.
Oh.
Not having like constant stress there, like feeling there's constant stress to like keep moving it and recorrecting it. It's been amazing, yeah.
Oh, thanks for sharing, Michaela. It is the biggest game changer. The natural hips and triangle has the biggest impact. I totally agree. And for your poor little SI joints and your pelvis and the stuff you've been going through, it's going to change everything, honestly. For me, it did. It changed my life. I was resistant towards it. It was absolutely life-changing. And you know, it's also so rewarding when you teach your beginners and you get them into the most perfect triangle and they haven't been taught this horrible opening and wrenching of the hip thing. And they just get into these stunning poses perfectly, just because you understand now how the body moves. And it's just so rewarding. And I'm excited for you guys to go out there and share this information that we don't have to tear our hips apart to do a triangle pose, that actually everything works better than just being normal. So
exactly.
Thanks, Michaela. You made me so happy. You made my night. Any other questions around your triangle pose? Okay, cool. And last thing with the leaning back and then the shoulders, just to take these arms and then wrap them back and down is like a final thing. So you check the feet, the kneecaps are pulled up, the hips are natural, you've linked the shoulders back, you've twisted chest open, waist is beautifully long, and then I always think lastly, wrap both shoulders back and down. And it's just like that final little adjustment just to complete the pose. Okay, so I've seen huge transformations. So well done, everyone, for implementing all this information and translating it into your bodies, which is really tough. Really well done. You guys are doing great. Anything else you would like to chat about this evening? All good. I will see you tomorrow for a back bend class in the morning. And we'll also be continuing to break down poses, and very well done. You guys are doing great. Pace yourselves, take it easy, get strong, slowly. Well done. Good night.
See you tomorrow morning.
See you tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.